Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. We've been using the Thrustmaster T80 Ferarri 488 GTB Edition, a name we won't be saying out in full for the rest of the review because it's just a mouthful, for about 3 weeks now, and I have some thoughts. Important to clear up before we actually get into the review is the fact that I'm not a racing sim enthusiast, and this is the first time I've owned a racing wheel. Because of this, I won't be comparing it to other wheels. Instead, I will be sharing thoughts from the experience I've had with it personally. It's probably best to start with the positives. The thing I've enjoyed most using the T80 racing wheel is simply the fact that it's easier to get into a lot of games I could not play at all before this. I tried to play 2 titles before using the controller and I just didn't have the patience for it. The first was Project Cars, which I had bought a year ago, and then Dirt Rally 2, which I got as a PS Plus game. Since getting the racing wheel, I've been able to play Project Cars with zero issue, and whilst I'm yet to try out Dirt Rally 2 because of storage issues, I've also been playing a lot of Gran Turismo. In Project Cars, which is considered a tough simulation, I've been able to drive more precisely than I could using a controller, and because there are pedals accompanying the racing wheel, it generally feels like a better experience. It's definitely more immersive, and even without force feedback, because the T80 doesn't have it, I would take this over a controller on any day. Another positive is the design. The T80 Ferarri Edition's design is something you will either love or hate. Compared to the standard T80, I'll take the Ferarri Edition on any day since it just looks nicer in my opinion. The button layout looks better as well. I've never used the standard T80, so I can't directly compare, but judging from the pictures, the GTB edition looks more appealing to me, but depending on your preference, you might like the regular T80 better. One of the biggest positives of owning the T80 steering wheel is the fact that there's multi-platform support. Having one peripheral that works on multiple devices is a lifesaver, and that's exactly how it is with the T80 steering wheel. At launch in 2017, it supported the PlayStation 4 and PC, whilst there's a separate Xbox-only version. Thrustmaster did announce that the T80 and a bunch of their other wheels will support the PS5, which is a big deal as you don't have to wait for new products to come out and spend money again. Whilst I don't have a PS5 right now, this announcement is what made me actually take the leap and end up buying the T80, since I knew it would be supported if I decided to upgrade to the PS5. If you've enjoyed this review up to this point, please like and subscribe to the channel, as that will help us to make more content of this sort. So far we've spoken about the things that I've enjoyed whilst using the T80, but that doesn't mean it's all roses with this wheel, and there's a number of things that have frustrated me since getting it, which we should probably address now. So the first negative we'll address is the lack of force feedback. During the time I was searching for an entry-level wheel, one thing became clear. Force feedback and entry-level simply do not coexist. Since I have never used a racing wheel prior to the T80, I generally thought, how much of a big deal can force feedback be? And after using the wheel, I think force feedback is a huge deal. Because I'm yet to experience force feedback, I can't be sure what exactly I'm missing out on, but the truth of the matter is, when you're driving a car in real life, there are a lot of cues you get from the steering wheel and your driver's seat. Of course, the racing wheel won't simulate the feel of a seat, but at least having the cues from the racing wheel itself would make for a better experience. I got punished for this lack of feedback more in Project Cars than I did in GT Sport, and let me try to explain that. In Project Cars, there are moments when the road gets bumpy, and because visually this isn't portrayed well and I'm not getting feedback from the wheel, in some cases I would spin out simply because I haven't treated that portion of the road with the respect that it deserves. If you're in the market for a racing wheel and you can stretch and get a wheel with force feedback, maybe you should, but the thing is, I haven't experienced it, so I can't say how well the feedback would have changed my experience in games like Project Cars or GT Sport. Another gripe I've had with the T80 Ferarri Edition is that it's on the small side. So Thrustmaster says it's an 8 to 10 replica of the Ferrari T80 steering in real life, which I guess is close enough, but it feels pretty small in my hands. Because of this, it tends to feel like my shoulders are closer together than they should be, but it's something I tend to adjust to pretty quickly, like maybe 1 or 2 laps, and I'll be fine with it. So it's not as big a deal. The pedals that come with the T80 are the biggest frustration for me. They're plastic and the rubber feet underneath them are not the greatest at gripping the floor. Whilst my setup makes this easier to mitigate, this could generally ruin the experience for some. I've seen other YouTubers resort to using books to stabilize the pedal set, so it's something you can always work around, and depending on your setup, you might not even need to work around this. Your mileage may vary. Get it? For $90, the T80 is a great entry-level wheel, and I've had a total blast using it in Gran Turismo Sport. It's a great beginner wheel that gives sim enthusiasts and those looking to experiment an inexpensive starting point. After using it for nearly a month, I would recommend it with no problems.